Hi everyone. Now we're up to what happened to me when I got government housing part 21. And on Saturday night in Melbourne, it was a full moon, a really big, beautiful full moon. It was really low and I got some shots of it, which was good. But unfortunately, I don't have a really good camera. If I did, I'd be able to get some even better shots. But you can see it in the sky there. So anyway, the behavior of the respondent was still very aggressive, and he was still getting away with the assaults that I had suffered so far. And as you can understand by this stage, it had just gone on, for ages, like literally over a year. On the 30th of the 5th, 2016, I walked into the block and he actually followed after me, like all the way, like not even a meter behind me. He was tailing me all the way to my front door. And I filmed that incident, but I couldn't put it in this video because in that particular incident, I was holding the camera up so that identifies him. And as I've said before, I don't intend to identify people if I can avoid it. But I still have that video, and it was submitted to the court. The other thing that I wanted to mention at this point was that the respondent had actually painted his minibus so that he had a scene from a cartoon on it, which was obviously bizarre. But for some reason, no one batted an eyelid about that. I don't know why he did it, and I can't think of any reason why someone living in public housing would purchase a minibus in the first place, especially given that he actually had another vehicle that he drove. It's not like he bought this thing to use as a vehicle. He did already have a van. But then after he purchased it, he then used it as I was explaining before, like he would sit inside it with it was more or less like a barrier and a barricade, and it was a place to hide in, and he would sit in it with the door open, and as I've explained, that made it pretty hard for me to get past. So when this minibus was painted, that was another thing that I was forced to deal with emotionally and mentally, and something that I needed to rationalize at that time, but obviously I couldn't, and I still can't now, but at this point in time, I'm not trying to. I don't think it's because I've given up trying. I think it's just because I see things differently. And at that point in time, as you can understand, I was living in fear and I was living in danger of being assaulted. So it had a different impact. But on top of all of the other strange things that were happening, there was this. So I've got this photo here that shows the minibus as he painted it, and as you can see, it had Tijuana taxi written on the side, and I never saw him work as a taxi driver or an Uber driver for that matter, so I don't believe it was actually a taxi, and I don't know why he put that particular scene there other than I think it's a scene from a cartoon. But that was actually exactly the same minibus as this one here, which was the same minibus, but before he had painted it over. And I was still hadn't been contacted by the police about the incident where he threw a bucket of water on me when I was at my clothesline. So on the 1st of the 6th, 2016, at around 9 a.m., I went down to the local police station, and I actually spoke to the officer who had been the person who called me on the day of the incident, the one that said that he was out on a job and that he may get to me, sometime after 11. And as you know, I told them that I didn't want them to attend, and we've looked at that in the previous video. So I provided that officer, when I went into the station, I provided that officer with a USB stick, and on the USB stick there was photos of the water on my back fence, that, the same one that I put in the previous video, and also I believe there was a brief description of the events on the USB stick as well. So in other words, it had documents that would assist me to make a statement against the respondent, or against whoever else was going to be blamed for that. And for some reason, even though I was in the police station and I was there and he was there, he didn't ask me to make a formal statement. And that's what I wanted to do, and that's why I was down there, and that's why I collected evidence, and that's why I rang the police. But for some reason, he did not ask me to make a statement, and I felt really uncomfortable about being in the station. I felt uncomfortable about the way I was treated on that day. So I gave him my email address, and he stated that he would contact me after he looked at the material on my USB stick. And I left the station wondering why it was so hard for me to make a statement to the police. Then on the 2nd of the 6th, 2016, I was walking through a park in my local area when the respondent rode past me on a push bike and verbally abused me. I wasn't able to get this incident on video because I normally set up my camera on my phone when I'm a bit closer to my home, but I still submitted this incident as evidence to the court because it happened and because it was another example of his aggressive and stalking behaviour. Then by the 7th of the 6th, 2016, I received an email from the officer that I spoke to about the incident when the respondent threw water on me while I was at my clothesline. And in the email, he asked me to ring him. So I did, but when I did, I was told that he wasn't there. And then I asked the officer on the phone when he would be there, and they claimed that they couldn't give out that sort of information. So it was basically becoming ridiculous at this point. I wasn't able to get hold of the police, and when I was in the station and I did actually get hold of them, they weren't willing to take my statement. The police were making it really hard for me to make statements in general, and this particular incident is a good example of that. But there was nothing that I could do about it. And I left a message for the officer to email me back. And I also emailed him myself because I had gotten his email address on the day that I attended the station, just to make sure that he did get the message. And there were actually, I wanted to get into some other things in this video as well, which, as you can see, that it has become quite strange, like the circumstances that I was living in and the way I was treated and so forth did become quite strange. But there were other things that I wanted to get into in this video, and that's mainly around the use of violence to control and intimidate people, but also psychological menacing is something that I wanted to get into, and also police duty failure. And it seems to me that the more I examine and the more I get into what was happening to me at that time, it was effectively, the police duty failure was effectively a form of violence that was used against me as well. And that's something that we'll get into in later videos, because unfortunately it does get worse and it just keeps going on.